Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episodes. Oh my gosh, is this what the episode is going to be like? An episode of Wombs with a View, Maternal Musings with Jenny and Sylvia. I am Sylvia.
I'm Jenny.
And we have a guest. We have a lovely guest with us. Doulas are in the house today because Camille Maheu has been a doula, a Montreal doula for many years. Welcome, Camille.
Thank you for
She
having me.
also wears an important hat in the doula community. She is vice president, and I don't know exactly of what, but the vice president of the ACAN, which is l'Association des accompagnantes à la naissance du Québec. So the Doula Association of Quebec. And today we are talking about second wave. We're talking about COVID. We're talking about doulas. We're talking about the birth room. And we're going to have two types of people on the call, I think, today, and we want to know who you are. So if you're watching, tell us, are you a mom expecting or are you a doula? Because we are going to leave you today. This is not all gloom and doom. We're going to leave you today with some tips. So stay with us. And moms are going to leave with tips and doulas are going to leave with tips so we can ride this wave together, this second wave. And so welcome to the two of you. Welcome to Camille. This conversation started because Jenny B
got mad.
And we're allowed to feel anger. We are allowed to feel anger.
I think it's appropriate. I think it's a time where we're allowed to be pissed off. And I find myself in such a funny place because I'm doing this with my hands. I'm a yoga teacher. I'm not supposed to get pissed off, but there's a time and a place for anger, for rage, and for action, and not just sitting back and watching things roll out in a way that is, in this case, depriving women of rights. And it feels to me an attack on women. It feels to me very, very unfair. So yeah, I did try to get a little group. I thought like, rally, and I missed the rally the first wave. I didn't really get much into it, and it was when it happened this time, we received the news that doulas were no longer going to be allowed in the hospital. It really hit me of, okay, this is messed up. What can I do? So I tried to get a few doulas together. And then when I did approach Sylvia, she sort of bumped me to Camille and said, well, this is the action person. So like, Camille, how can I help you with this fight? And then I think Camille said, well, we're not fighting this time. So I want to see what that looks like and understand, well, why aren't we fighting? And what happened when we fought last time? Was there a point?
Yeah, important questions. And for those of you who are new to our community here, Jenny and I are doulas with Rock the Cradle. Jenny is a postpartum doula. She is a prenatal, postnatal yoga teacher, Ayurvedic massage therapist, infant massage therapist. So has been in the birth world for a long time. I run Rock the Cradle, a bilingual agency here in Montreal. And Camille is also runs Les Premiers Moments, which is another agency, bilingual agency in Montreal. So we have been in the birth world for many, many years. And like, this is new. This is new for us anyway. And so let's jump right in. Right? Jenny wants some answers. And I don't want to spend too much time on what was done in the past, but it's moved. So I'd like to see what was done and what is being done now.
Yeah, for sure. I think, Jenny, you asked the question, but was there a point to the fight that we had at the beginning? I think we were angry, like you said, like you're feeling now. I think we were mad that we felt like the women were not being heard and not being treated equally, not equally, but fairly, I'd say. And the pandemic was new to everyone. We didn't know what was a pandemic and what was COVID-19. And so we were kind of learning as we went. So what we did is we tried to help our community the best that we could. So we had like two tracks, let's say, like one with the doulas of our community. So we tried to help them develop new tools to be able to support their clients virtually or with a distance. So we tried to empower this community to find new solutions to the problems that we had. And then secondly, we did try to reach every hospital. We tried to reach the ministers. We sent open letters. We had journalists cover up. We had a bunch of interviews, either in French or in English. We went on television. We,
Because
we
doulas were
tried.
no longer allowed in the birth room. I don't know if we said that,
Exactly.
but here at the very, very beginning, and there was even the Jewish general here in Montreal who banned partners at one point, and that's what the media caught on, and that changed things. And the minister came back and said, no, 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 we're not that they overturned that ruling. Thank gosh. I mean, at least one support person, no matter who that support person was.
Yes. They tried for it lasted about 3 weeks with the Jewish, and I know that with the RNR, the Regroupement Naissance Respectée, which is an organism in the mostly in the French side of Montreal, where they fight a lot for women's right towards the birth, and so they sent a letter and they said New York tried it, and who else tried it? Paris tried it, and it lasted 3 weeks. So why do you think Montreal is going to last longer? So it did. It lasted 3 weeks. And what happened is that on June 5th, the government released a new protocol saying that doulas, well, the second person was allowed in the hospitals now, depending on the hospital policies. So what happened after is like half of the hospitals started opening our doors to us, but half of them still remain closed up to now. And
they never opened up. The big ones. They were the three big, hospitals.
Still, but like Saint Justin was
they
one of
did,
the first to open up.
Yeah.
So some big hospitals opened their doors, but yes, the big ones remain closed. And now since last week, a lot of them, well, everybody closed up again.
All of Montreal and the birthing centers as well. I understand.
And the birthing centers, yes.
And it was just it was just so I can understand, so other people can understand. I felt like the first time, and again, I work as a postpartum doula, and I don't go into the hospitals, and part of me is like, okay, is this even your fight, Jenny? But it is, because it's not even about me or about my colleagues my colleagues are not making money anymore. No, my colleagues don't even care about making money anymore. It's not about that. It's now who's there supporting the women. But I felt like the first time watching the information trickle in was like, oh, this hospital's not allowing it anymore. Okay, now this is a hot spot for COVID. I felt like they shut things down one at a time, whereas now it just was like a blanket statement of it doesn't even matter if there's COVID in these hospitals or if anybody's even catching it or if any doulas are introducing it, or like it was just a blanket statement. And it felt to me like it feels like a metaphor for how women are treated in the hospital in general. It's like every woman is put in the same box regardless of what's happening to her. You know what I mean? Like I just see it as like a point blank, pregnant women, we just don't care about you.
Well, they made the rules. I think if it's code orange, it's this. If it's code red, then it's this. Code yellow, and yes.
Yeah. But even the codes, like the code snuck up on me. One day I woke up and it was red alert. I was like, what are these? What's code purple? Is there a code purple?
It's rock the cradle colors.
Yeah, that's what
code purple. We're ever going to be everywhere.
Sorry to cut you off. I just felt like this time was just like a system, like shut down everything rather than, okay, can we actually look at numbers and figure out what's happening in these particular hospitals? But no, let's just shut it all down.
I think, Camille, and maybe you can speak to this, the doulas are feeling a little left out because the work we do, we're not a grandmother. We're not your sister. No. We are trained professionals who work in the hospital, but not for the hospitals. So by being left out, we felt snubbed.
We did. And I think that's the main thing that we tried to communicate with our open letters and our interviews, saying that doulas are not, as you said, a grandmother or just a support person. It's actually a trained professional. It's an ally.
An ally. Yeah, we're allies.
Yeah, to the community, so we're there to also try to not alleviate, not reduce the work that the nurses, that the doctors do, but as another person that's there to help you, everybody is a winner in this situation. The parents are winning something, the nurses and the doctors too, right? So everybody wins in this situation. So that's what we were trying to explain, but with like numbers and testimonials or something that they could grab onto. But what we now with the second wave, what we're trying to, our thought process was that now maybe it's not the right moment to fight. It's not the right moment to actually ask for something. It's the time to help out the way that we can. so we are not a burden on anyone. So we try not to be a burden this time, because the first time around, maybe something that we did help out, maybe like our situation, maybe something that we did opened up the doors in June. um, we're not sure. It's not,
Mm.
it wasn't like a direct communication of like, yes, okay, I read your letter, it made sense,
Mm.
let's welcome you guys in. It took a while, and we don't know really what worked. I think that this time around we are trying a different approach, where we're trying to say, okay, we understand that it's a global pandemic. We understand that the medical staff is overworked and overstressed, and especially like if you take birthing centers, where now, um, because during the first wave, the home deliveries were impossible for a while, so they stopped having home deliveries, home births, and now they are keeping them, but the doulas are not allowed to go. And this made no sense for a lot of people. And with les premiers moments, half of the team is aide natal, like assistant midwives ish,
In the birthing
um,
centers, yeah.
in the birthing centers. And so they explained to me, they're like, yes, but what happens when midwives get
Get sick.
COVID?
Yeah.
What happens when one person enters the birthing center and spreads COVID around? Then every woman that have a midwife that's supposed to have either a birth in a birthing center or at home is losing that privilege and has to go give birth at the hospital. And so that we're talking dozens and dozens of women that can maybe lose you know, their
But that's
plan.
the thing that can maybe lose. Is it even happening? And is it fair to take that away from everybody that can maybe gain from having the support person there?
And what we tried to explain to our community is that the clients are not losing us. The women are not losing us. We are there to support them in a different way, yes, but we are there. We are there to support them. And what is our main role as a doula? It's to empower the parents, and it's to make them feel safe and capable and able to give birth the way they intend to. So our presence at birth should never be obligate, like the main thing that will help them deliver the way that they want
No,
them to,
no, of
right?
course not. No, of course
So
not.
whether we're there or not, it shouldn't be the key component of a happy and easy birth. So we try to shift the focus a little bit, instead of being like, we need to be there. We actually don't need to be there. What we need to do is support our clients the best way possible. And that's by giving them an incredible prenatal, presence and preparation, so that during their birth they can either call us or text us and saying like, hey, what would you do in this situation? Can you help us out? Like, should I do this? I'm not sure what to do. Like, I'm not feeling comfortable, can you help out? And this you can do. You can do labor at home also with the parents before they go to the hospital. So there's different ways that we can still support our clients. And I think in a way it humbles a lot of us and saying like, we're not that important. We are, and our job is amazing, and I love our job, but it's not essential to the birthing parent. It's like, they have to be able to do it by themselves. So I think by shifting this focus of being like, we need to empower them and we need to develop new tools to be able to do it, I think that's the way that we try to avoid being burdens to the medical community and medical staff. That's our stance right now with ACAN.
Jenny, I could see the bubble above your head.
What do you think's in the bubble? The word burden. Yeah, I understand, but for me, it just seems like the entirety of any of the new COVID red alert bullshit. Sorry, wombs with a view. That's my view. Bullshit. Is all of us just sitting down and shutting up and not wanting to be a burden on anyone. So yeah, I'll just wear my mask outside. I'll just wear my mask in the car and just listen and be a good girl and not question anything. And it just, to me, goes against the whole point of being a doula, which is there to stand up and to help. If we're just going to say, oh, I don't want to bother the nurses. Like, it's our job it's not our job to bother the nurses, but it's our job to do something. And
I agree with that. I agree with that. I think that maybe burden is not the right word, but I think that by knowing a lot of people that work in hospitals and in birthing centers, the stress levels that they have to and the protocols that they have to put in place to stay healthy is quite extensive. And I think that by I we our thought process with Aiken was that it's not the right moment to try to uh, ask for a place right now, because everybody is trying to avoid contact and avoid this and avoid that, and having this sort of momentum, try to create this momentum of being like, do you know what a doula is? I will explain to you what a doula is, and how and why we should be there. We just didn't feel like ears was
Well, the
on it.
message is not going through because it's
Exactly.
going in and it's going out because their focus
Exactly.
is not on that, right? Their
Exactly.
focus is on staying healthy so that they can have enough staff to help those that are there.
Exactly. And we
So
just thought that,
you can
yeah.
pound it as many times as you want, which comes to the point that perhaps in a distant future, or perhaps a closer distant future, that we as doulas need to have even tighter relationships with the hospitals and the nursing staff, and that many of them do know and hold us in high esteem and value the
Mhm.
work that we do. But there
They're
are
not the ones who
there are
make
a
the
whole bunch that
decisions.
don't. They're
And
not, the
I,
nurses are not the ones, right? They're not the hospital administration. Yeah.
no, and the nurses are actually pretty anxious for us to come back, from what I understand. Like, by talking with nurses and by having colleagues report to me what their friends were saying, the nursing staff is stressed out and tired, and they know how a doula can help. So they're not the ones
Well, yeah,
trying
when
to
we're
avoid
there, they
our
don't even have
presence.
to come in the room hardly ever, right? I mean, they know they're in
Sometimes,
good hands. Sometimes we don't see
and
them. It's once an hour
and
that we
yeah.
see them.
So
Yeah.
because the doula is there to focus on the emotional part and the physiology part, the nurses can actually do what they're trained for, which is, monitor baby and mother and make sure that everybody goes smoothly.
Mm.
So they are waiting for us to come back for sure.
I feel like
Megan, oh, sorry, I was going to read a comment. Megan says, don't you guys think we're past this point? We've already established ourselves in the hospitals here. We need to find a way to be seen as patients, right? Not as an extra person. And that comes to that whole discussion that perhaps the discussions haven't been with the right people so far in the hospitals.
This could have been a time, and this was kind of Mika, our other colleague, one of our other colleagues at Rock the Cradle, we were talking about. This could have been the time where our work was valued, where they stood back and said, oh, we get it. We understand the value of doulas. If we're talking about midwives, or hospital staff getting sick from the introduction of one extra person in the birth room, but the schools are open,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
like, why?
For sure, there
I'm
are decisions out there that are not making sense.
It's
For
it.
sure.
It's illogic. So to me, if you're going to arbitrarily make decisions and leave all these schools open, which thank God they're open, but the chances of those midwife mommies getting sick from their children who are coming home from school far outweigh the chances of that one extra doula in the birth room. So why is this being taken away from women? And fucking Walmart is open. Walmart is open. The churches are open. Women cannot have a birth person. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, and Megan's got a good point. Megan is a doula here, also runs an agency in Montreal. We need to get women fighting for themselves, right? I mean, I think doulas here in Montreal serve perhaps you have more stats, Camille, 10% of births have doulas at them?
Depending on the
Where you
hospital,
are?
depending on like the
Yes.
regions, I'd say about 10 to 12%.
About
We don't
10%.
have official numbers. About what Megan just wrote, that we need the women to fight for us, kind of, or for their rights mostly.
Advocate for themselves, for their rights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We did try that. We did to try in the first wave. We wrote a letter that the women could take with her to the doctor
Yes.
and like, this is my right. I want my doula to be with me. So we tried everything. We tried the doctors to wrote down prescriptions for doulas. Sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. We tried to have all sorts of like ways to enter the hospitals, basically, so you could call the maternity, and then the maternity would be in relations with the doctor,
Yeah.
and then
The
we tried
security
to
guard would let you in because you know him and
exactly
you brought him some donuts from Tim Hortons.
we just tried to go and get past the security doorman. But what we realize now is that, well, it didn't work first. Um, and because I think it's a timing issue also, that our role was not as established as it should have been before the pandemic happened. And
Mm,
some hospitals do know what we are and do want our presence with them, but some hospitals are pretty
reticent.
reticent, yes, to include us in their world still. Um, and for them, it's pretty abstract what we do, and we are to them just another support person. So yes, it's the responsibility of the mother to try to advocate for herself and for her right, and we try to support them as much as we can with that. Um,
And it's a small percentage, right? I mean, if we look at, if it's 10% of the births happening, 90% of women are not having doulas. If we're contrary to that, right? So many women at the Jewish were told that they couldn't have their spouses there. That was 100% of those women couldn't. Well, of course, then they rise up, right? But now we're talking 10% of women. So they're going to, squish that idea. And I think that, that going forward with the ACAN and doulas around me have been asking, are you a member of ACAN? Like, what can we do? And I'm like, well, join the association, because the more people we have, the more doulas. I mean, there are hundreds of doulas in Quebec. I urge you all to get on board, because if the ACAN only represents, a couple of dozen people, I know it's more than that, Camille, but we want the more people, the more representation, and get involved. This is where that action comes from.
But there's no action this time. There's nothing to get involved with. This is not to insult you, Camille, by any stretch. I just am still scratching my head, and I'm still feeling like this isn't fair. And if we as doulas aren't going to do anything, nobody is going to do anything. We're just going to sit and we're going to lay on our backs with an epidural in our back and just let the doctor do whatever the doctor is going to do.
But you see, the presence of a doula is not imperial to not having that experience, right? So, like, we need to prepare our clients. We need to empower them so they can make that choice for themselves. They can have the birth that they want, and we are there to support them. We're there to be at their home with them for early labor. We are there. I've had colleagues that have FaceTime for 8 hours, with their clients.
And the doulas are turning it up for sure. You guys are all finding ways to support women in the best way that you possibly can under the constraints. It's just, I want the constraints to go away. I want them to go away.
We want them also to go away. But I think that this time it's not that we're not doing anything. I think this time we're trying to shift the focus. We're really trying to be like, okay, what can we do to help out everyone? Really, what can we do to help out the parents that are our clients? What can we do to help them have easier, faster, more positive births? And also, at the meantime, like, not try to fight for something that it's not the right timing for that. We tried it for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we just had closed doors, and we're like, okay, maybe it's not the right time. Maybe everybody's busy trying to like survive.
Well, this is the thing. We are a drop in the bucket, honestly. If you're not a hospital administrator, and I'm not, but I can pretend to be one, and having managed many teams before in my life, we're a drop. We're one thing, and we're not the most important thing at the moment, right? And I can see that. And then Jenny and I have had these discussions, and I say, I do understand. And then she goes, but you're not doing anything. And I said, well, I think I do agree with you, Camille. I mean, the focus then turns to, well, okay, how in my power as a doula can I serve my clients to the best of my ability? Where the issues come, though, is this is our livelihood. And Megan makes another comment, like, since people know that they can't hire doulas, they're not hiring doulas. So they're not getting that virtual support. They don't think it's as valuable as the physical support. So therefore, we're not even making money. And I know we're not the only people in the world whose businesses are being affected by this, but this is another layer of frustration for doulas, right? So
Exactly.
yeah, it takes our work 2 steps back. I see that. I can feel that.
I didn't get a chance to read what Kimberly just wrote, but
Kimberly,
as hard as doulas.
and when to not push for our presence in the hospital, as Camille said, empowering the mother is key right now. Yeah. So let's talk about the ways. How can we empower people at the moment? I mean, let's talk about empowering doulas. I am a business coach, for those of you who don't know, and I have seen some great successes over the pandemic, right? We have had to empower ourselves and adapt our businesses and pivot them. I've seen people go online offering new services. How can we think out of the box? How can we best be present to support? How can you be best and present to support your clients through these times?
I think it was a hard question for us, really,
Mm-hmm.
Because we've been used to our ways.
Yeah, of
You get
course.
used to it. You're like, okay, this is how it works. Doula work is like this. But I think that what we found is that doulas are so adaptable. They are so adaptable. I've seen so much creativity come out of this pandemic in our community, saying like, okay, but maybe I can support them, with different people drew things and send them via, texting. It was really, really creative while the birth was happening. And then meanwhile, in the preparation going into the birth during the pregnancy, I think that our prenatal classes definitely changed a bit. And, when you're prepping doula clients, you're like, okay, when I'll be there, so I'll be able to help you out with that, or I'll be there. So and we have to see the supporting person. So most of the time it's the second parent. It's sort of like a doula training that we try to give them. So you need to, this is how I would word out how I would do, or this is how you can do it if I'm not there to help you. If we try to empower the second parent a lot, not just the mother, with the person that's giving birth. And I think that by modifying a bit our services, like the labor at home, I think is something that a lot of parents are neglecting. Of like, no,
Mm-hmm.
I'll meet you at the hospital. Yes, but then you get to the hospital and it's pretty early sometimes in the labor, and so we don't go now, so we go later, and like the epidural has been asked, so it's like sometimes the laboring at home part is a big part of what we can do right now. um,
Yeah, if you're a doula, what have you been doing the last 6 months? How have you adapted? How have you adapted your services? What new services have you created? I think this is a great, if I'm going to be optimistic today, or put a positive spin on things, my team have been taking some new trainings in preparation, and not even in preparation for I don't think it's ever going to go back to normal per se. I don't like that word, but when we're allowed back in, what other services can you offer? Is there something that you've been wanting to add to your portfolio? Jenny B, she's been wanting to go online for a long time, maybe not a long time, but going out on your own. And this was kind of the push you needed to do this, right, Jenny? And it's been a great success for you. So I urge you to look into, what is it that your heart's been calling and that you maybe haven't had time to do before. Budget is another thing, however, but looking and thinking out of the box. How can we still continue to serve? I think we still need to be very present. One thing I was, that I didn't really like was at the CLSCs. I mean, not that I'm a fan of their classes, however, but they stopped all their classes at one point. And then nobody was getting prenatal education of any kind for a little while, unless they were
I don't
going
know for you,
private route.
Sylvia, but yeah, I don't know for your team, Sylvia, but I know that in my team we've had a lot of parents demanding prenatal classes because the CLSA didn't give them.
Yeah.
So
That's an opportunity, right?
it
That's an
is, it
opportunity.
is, and I think that I've seen a lot of my colleagues not just with les premiers mamans, but with like every the entirety of the community, people trying to learn new tricks, learn the different platforms, master PowerPoint, or try to. I teach the spitting babies exercises in my prenatal classes. It's not easy to do that via screen.
Online.
I
No.
tell you now. So I've had to learn tricks, and it's crazy. Um, but I think that one service that is not exploding but in demand now is, I don't know how to say this in English, but it's accompagnement à la fratrie. So it's like for
Yes, I've
other
seen
kids.
that. Yes, sibling. We call sibling
Yeah,
doulas. I've seen that. We've been serving many families
the thing is,
in that way.
because who usually take cares of the other kids is like grandparents, or friends of the family. But when everybody's scared of being in contact, and if people, the grandparents are living 2 or 3 hours from here, they're not supposed to come to Montreal, then or they're older, we don't want them to come to Montreal. So we've been actually offering this service a lot of you know being there for the rest
Yeah.
of the family and still be in contact with the mother during
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah, exactly. So if I still believe that as doulas and with your clients that, we can still urge our clients to tell the hospitals and their doctors how they are feeling, and how, if, that that is a right, that, that they do want their doulas there. I still believe it's like anything, when delayed cord clamping wasn't a thing and people started talking about it and then, demanding it, then, all of a sudden all the doctors are at least giving a small amount of time.
It's stuff that takes time, and the thing is that pregnancy only lasts so long, and birth only lasts so long, and it's right now that people need support. And I think in the prenatal classes, which we all teach, which we all love teaching, and now I'm teaching hypnobirthing, and the hypnobirthing is a very interesting tool in that it definitely doesn't make the doula irrelevant, but it sounds like we're talking about teaching such great prenatal classes that the doula is like, who needs a doula? If we don't need a doula now during COVID, once the red alert's gone, well, if we're still teaching really amazing prenatal classes, maybe nobody ever needs a doula again, because the dad can just do it. Where I feel like they should always have those high quality prenatal classes where they get as much information as possible, but nothing can replace a doula's hip squeeze.
For sure. And it's not saying that our prenatal classes were not great before. It's just that we are teaching them in a different way, where we try to explain to the second parent or the partner, what does a doula do and what makes her great. So we try to have like someone that can get in our brain a little bit more.
It's nice. And I'm hoping that it's something that we're not going to then go back and remove that information from once doulas are led back in. It's just a richness and realizing, maybe, I don't know, not that classes were lacking, but we're not going to go and take that information away from any new parents. I just
no. But I think I've seen it in a way that if at a certain moment a massotherapist is not able to work because their association says, so because we're on red alert, you can't work. Everybody thinks that they're essential to the operation. Every person is like, no, but people need to get massages because they're stressed out, and if we don't massage them, then they'll forget about us and they'll do this and they'll do that. And I'm not saying that it's the same work, but it's a sort of sacrifice that restaurants are closing down, everybody's closing down. So in our role, I think, and I can think, that is to try to do our best to help out, and we're not trying to fight something that everybody has to fall on for. Everybody has to.
I like what you said, Camille,
at the moment.
about everyone thinking that they're important. I was like thinking like all the people yesterday about the gyms being closed, and I don't work out in a gym. I actually work out at home and do things home and outside. And I'm like, but you don't need a gym. You don't need a gym. But people.
But for some people, a gym
hold
is
on
like
to their gym.
haven.
That's right. They leave the house. They can leave the house for an hour.
Yeah, and it's their not only physical. I don't go to the gym either, and I'm furious that the gyms are closed. I haven't worked in a yoga. I mean, I had 3 nice sessions at Happy Tree before everything closed again, which was great because people got to be in human contact. But I'm pissed that the gyms are closed, because this is not only for physical health. This is people's lifeline. There are people who go to work out at the gym instead of taking drugs or drinking. Like that's the thing that they can turn to, and it's gone. And we're suffering globally with higher suicide rates and children becoming depressed.
Well, it comes to, again, thank you all for commenting. Your comments are great. Nora here is talking about how she also has gone online in her community in Ontario, and that advocacy is super important, she says, and it's the families who have to advocate. So that is where it joins you, Camille. There's only so much the association can do because we think we're important, but it's actually the users. And the users are the patients of the hospital. So the patients need to say, this is what we want. And it's a small amount using doulas at the moment. And go ahead.
I just want to take a minute to remind everybody that ACAN at the moment is, we're not getting paid for our work.
No, you're all volunteers.
Exactly.
Yes.
Volunteer work. And during the first wave of pandemic, we worked like it was our full-time job for like a few weeks in a row. And I think now, because we saw what could be done this time around, we're just like, okay, you know what, we're gonna try to shift things around and try to be there for the community as much as we can. So we've been in contact with our members who've been giving out tools and stuff like that to try to help them out, but we're not trying to exhaust ourselves and fight a fight that is not
well,
ours.
it's a different vibe, right? And it's my message to all of my clients is, well, not birthing clients, but coaching clients, people who have businesses, is how are we going to show up this time around? The vibe in March was frantic. It was frantic. Which hospitals are closing? Where can we go? How can we get in? Ask the security guard, do this, do that. And that was felt through the ACAN as well, and through all of the different Facebook groups that we're all on. And now it is okay. Well, we are leaders in the community. Let's show up powerfully and differently this time around, which I don't think is wrong.
Is liberal feminism versus radical feminism. It's working within a system that's fucked up versus breaking out of the system and changing it. And I guess sometimes there's a place for either. I'm just a little bit more radically inclined, and I feel like my hands are tied. But it's not, and again, it's not about me. I don't even go into the hospital. I just I'm feeling frustrated for the rights of women being taken away, the right that they get to choose who is there with them. Sure, they can leave their husband at home and choose a doula instead, but that's not good.
That does suck for sure.
It's not a win-win situation.
Oh, sorry, Camille, I'm covering up we're covering up all our faces here with Megan's comment. I wish there was a way we could properly track interventions and birth outcomes. Oh yeah, after this year. There are things happening in the hospital right now. We've had some clients on our show, Jenny, right, who said that they've been forced into epidurals, that all clients need an epidural, and that we're like, oh my gosh. So we're not like that in Montreal, but there's lots of crap that's happening elsewhere, and changing those protocols because of COVID. And it can have a negative effect on birth. And
let's be honest, the things are happening because that support person who has been highly trained, which is the doulas, is not there. So as much as the dad knows, that dad has never given birth, that dad has never taken the trainings, he's never witnessed births, he's not going to be the person who is there standing behind the couple, coaching them in that moment, maybe via Skype, maybe via the phone. But what Megan just said is a really good point. Let's see how this pans out.
It would be good to see the
right. It's obvious. We already know the answer. It's rhetorical. We know what's happening.
We do know, and I think that sheds light to the role of the doula being there for sure. I've seen a lot of inductions, a lot of inductions. And these numbers eventually will come out. It's a hard place to stand on. There's not a right way to tackle this on. I feel like we want to be there for our clients as much as we can, and we don't want to make enemies also. And
yes, this is a good point. This is a very good point, and I feel like for myself being mad now, I'll hide this logo, but like I'm not in the hospital. And you know why I'm not in the hospital is you see my reaction. I can't be in the hospital anymore. I'm an angry doula. I'm the doula that would give doulas bad names in the hospital because I get too
bad
mad.
doula, Jenny.
Bad
One of
doula.
those bad doulas. When they talk about bad doulas,
It's
but you're an
me.
amazing postpartum
Yeah, because I'm in
doula,
people's home with
and not
young
everyone.
couple
Yeah,
and baby, and I
but
don't
it's true.
have.
It's not our house, right? And that's a really good point,
But
Camille.
it should be. This is the big problem. And Mika
Well,
left this nice long
yeah,
comment.
she did. I
It
didn't
comes
put it on there.
back to this system of the majority of births should not even be in the hospital.
Yeah.
They shouldn't even be there. So if women can't get access to a midwife because there's not enough midwives here, there's not enough birth centers here. We can't give birth at home when we should be giving birth at home because we're healthy. That's the big problem here.
That's the broken system
belong in the hospital.
And the other thing too, and we didn't talk about it, the culture in Montreal. And if you're listening from elsewhere, I think Nora, you're in Ontario. It's very different, the relationship between midwives and doctors. Montreal is very special, and we have the language, and we have the battle between, let's say it out loud, midwives and doctors. They don't always get along, and I don't want to generalize, but I think I will. Some of them do, and many of them don't. And we have seen that. So doulas are an autre palier, it's that other level that they have to deal with. And I think they see us more on the midwifery side of things as well. So that natural birth, and that's not necessarily what we're all about either. What an amazing conversation. I think we're going to leave it there.
Can I
go
just
ahead, Camille, of course. Say last words.
While we are here, just to let everybody know, if you're a doula that wants to join ACAN, we are halfway through our year now, so you can get the membership until March 2021 for half price if you register now. And now we have over 100 members with us now, and we try to, during the pandemic, we really worked hard on boosting the membership, because we want to have credibility when we speak to ministers and government and
yeah, you need the numbers. We need the numbers.
And we do need to rally up everybody, and so we have one united voice instead of having 100 little voices. So if you want to join, please do. And it's not just for birth doulas; it's for prenatal, postpartum.
All birth workers.
It's a full spectrum doula organization.
And I think even though right now the attitude or the action is let's see what's going to happen, let's focus on our clients, that doesn't mean that that's always going to take place, right? I mean that there is room for action still, and it just depends as an association and as a group what kind of action that is decided upon.
And believe me that if in 2 months the rates of people getting sick is down and the hospital are still closed down, we're going to have a different stance for sure. Right now, we try to comply and be like, okay, let's wait this out. Let's wait for a few weeks, see what happens. But if it changes and we're not welcome back, we're going to say something.
Yeah, need to ring the bell. As doulas, I urge you, think out of the box. Going forward, how can you best serve your clients? There are lots of things that we can be doing and still show up. How will you be showing up as a leader? This is who we are in our businesses. We need to be showing up as a leader. Merci, Camille. Thank you for coming. It's been a super interesting chat. Jenny, I don't know if you're less enraged at the end of this or less, but I think it's...
I don't know either. I'm not enraged anymore.
I know you.
Someone is coming in 45 minutes to align my chakras, and tomorrow I'm going for a massage, and I'll be cheery Jenny again once I try to let this go. I just this word that I really love that we use a lot in yoga is surrender. And it has very negative connotations. For me, in this particular case, surrendering is the time where it has negative connotations because it's a giving up. There's céder. You can let go of these things that you cannot change. And I'm not willing to believe that we cannot change this right now. So yeah, I'm still a little on edge, but I wasn't a part of that fight, the first wave, and I don't even pretend to imagine how exhausting it was to put all of that work in, and at the end of the day, be like, well, my God, we didn't even get anywhere. So
But I refuse to see it, and I know I said our goodbyes in here. My husband says that all the time. You say your goodbye. I hear you say goodbye, and then you talk for another 10
And then
minutes.
there's
But
the chicken wing,
I
yeah.
don't think that the work was for nothing. There were relationships that were built. The more people know about doulas. Doulas have come together. There are more members in the association now than there were before. More people. So my question to you, Jenny, is how do we take that energy and that willingness to move things forward? If we can't do it in the hospitals and with the ministry, where can that be?
I think Camille is 100% right with the education, and it's just got to be to continue to support
Keep
the parents
Yeah.
in the way that we can until we can make a change.
Right.
But to
Until
sit back and wait months or year, you know,
I don't
like,
think any of us are doing that, right? I don't think we're doing that. None of us who are still serving our clients are doing that. If you are folding up your doula shop, well, then that's the choice
Yeah.
you've made, but we are
Yeah.
not. So I think it's a reframe. Let's reframe that, right?
But I think we all feel that this whole, like, there's many reasons why we can assume COVID is you know, it's shaking everything up in many, many different ways. And you know, we said about I'm sorry, I don't remember the acronym for the old age homes.
CHSLD.
So here we saw the big flaws of what's happening when we had the high numbers here in Montreal. And then now we just had this epiphany of like, well, how can we maybe have more births take place outside of the hospital? So this is less of an issue. So I think it for me, the silver lining is the unfolding. I'm like, oh wait, this is the flaw. This is the flaw. We find the flaws, but like, okay, now let's fix them. That's the silver lining, I think, is how it is to move forward in realizing, but then also taking action as well.
Exactly.
The key point, I think that the timing with this is going to be crucial when it goes down.
Yeah.
This is the moment where we go in and we're like, look at what you guys missed. You know, like we try to tell you, we try to explain it to you, we try to, you know, be there as much as we can. But, you know, look at the rates of the C-section, look at the rates of the inductions, look at the rates of the forceps use.
Postpartum depression. Yeah.
I love that you think that they'll care. I love.
I don't think they will, but I think it's going to be our job to be heard at that point. And I think this is going to be the time for us to position ourselves and be like, okay, we're not just rendos, you know, we are trained professionals that are there to help out. Please acknowledge us now. You know, I think this is going to be a lot of the work that ICANN is going to have to do, because during this first wave, you know, people didn't ask random doulas for like testimonials and stuff. They came to ICANN, you know, journalists wrote to us every day, you know, government officials wrote to us every day. So we became this focal point of the communication between the doulas in Quebec and
which is the role it needs to play, right? And
exactly,
I think that and everyone stepped up. I thank you as a doula. I thank Camille and your whole team. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. And for all the doulas out there and for all the parents who hire doulas and want better births, keep up the work, keep lobbying your doctors, keep letting them know what you want, because I do believe that change will happen. I just think it's a slow process as usual.
And let me know, Camille, let me know when the fight is on, I'm there.
Well, you know,
join now, join right, set it up.
That's the thing that you can do right now to help out for sure.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, and want to reach out to ACAN, here's the website here. You can reach out to Camille. I put her here at Les Premiers Moments. If you're looking for a little bit of peace in your chaotic day, prenatal yoga, postnatal yoga with Jenny B at jennybyoga.com.
The angry yoga teacher today. Again, I'll be fine after this chakra alignment. I swear to God.
And if you're looking to, you know, touch base with me for doulas or classes or whatever, at rockthecradle.ca. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we look forward to seeing you next week on another episode of our show. Goodbye, everyone.
For having me.
Thank you, Camille. Merci.
Bye-bye.